Ever wonder why some photos turn out too bright, too dark, or just don't look right? That's because of something called the exposure triangle, the foundation of photography. If you're just getting started with your camera, understanding this one concept will completely transform the way you shoot. In this video, I'll break down the exposure triangle into simple, easy to understand terms, and by the end, you'll know exactly how to take full control of your camera. Let's go. Section 1. What is the exposure triangle? The exposure triangle is made up of three settings that control how bright or how dark your image is. Shutter speed, how long your camera's shutter stays open. Aperture, how much light enters through your lens. And ISO, how sensitive your camera is to light. Think of exposure like filling a glass of water. Too little water, your photo's too dark, known as an underexposed image. Too much water, your photo is too bright, known as an overexposed image. Get it just right, that's perfect exposure. Section 2. Shutter speed. Freezing or blurring motion. Shutter speed controls how long the camera's sensor is exposed to light. It's measured in fractions of a second, like 1/500th of a second, or 1/60th of a second, or even 10 seconds. Fast shutter speeds, like 1/500th of a second or 1/8000th of a second, freeze motion. Great for sports, wildlife, and action shots. Less light enters the camera, so it works best in bright conditions. Slow shutter speeds, like 1/30th of a second or 30 seconds, creates motion blur. Great for waterfalls, light trails, and low light scenes. More light enters, so it helps in dark environments, but requires a tripod. If you're shooting handheld, keep your shutter speed at 1/60th of a second or faster to avoid blurry photos. Section 3. Aperture, controlling depth of field. Aperture is how much light your lens lets in. It's measured in f-stops like f1.8, f4, or f11. A low f-stop, like f1.8, means a wide open lens, while a high f-stop, like f16, means a very small opening. Wide apertures, like f1.8 to f4, let in more light, great for low light photography. Creates blurry backgrounds and shallow depths of field, perfect for portraits. Narrow apertures, like f8 to f16, let in less light, great for bright conditions, keeps everything sharp, and increases your depth of field. Perfect for landscapes. The lower the f-stop, the more the background will blur. But remember, a wider aperture means you need to adjust your shutter speed, or ISO, to balance the exposure. Section 4. ISO, controlling light sensitivity. ISO controls how sensitive your camera is to light. A low ISO, like 100 to 200, keeps your image clean, while a high ISO, like 3200 to 6400 or higher, make your camera more sensitive to light, but introduces noise. Low ISOs, like 100 to 400, best for bright conditions, outdoors or studio lighting, produces clean, noise-free images. High ISO, like 1600 to 6400, are useful for low-light photography or indoor night shooting. But these types of ISOs will add grain or noise to the image. Keep your ISO as low as possible for the best quality, and only increase it when you absolutely need more light. Section 5. How the exposure triangle works together. Now that you know what shutter speed, aperture, and ISO do, let's see how they work together. If you increase shutter speed, you'll need to lower the f-stop or raise the ISO to keep the image bright. If you open the aperture, like f2.8 or f1.8, you might need a faster shutter speed to avoid overexposure. If you raise your ISO, your photos get brighter, but too much will add grain. The key is to find the right balance between all three of these settings. Mastering the exposure triangle is the first step to taking great photos. Now it's your turn. Grab your camera, switch to manual mode, and start experimenting. If this video helped you, hit that like button and subscribe for more beginner photography tips.